the board. He's got some room. The Flames coming close. Another big hit in the corner. Pass in front, scores!
Hello, hockey fans, and welcome to the ACHA studios in Lynchburg, Virginia. We welcome you to the Division III Regional Reveal Show. I'm Rhett McGibbon, joined by Sean Bednard of Chippewa Hockey and Lou Gamlin of the ACHA Power Play. A great broadcast. If you don't get to hear it, you got to get on this guy. All kinds of good stuff.
Well, thanks. Thank you very much, Rhett.
Let's take a look here at the auto bids at the ACHA Division III level. We'll have to see if there's some surprises. There always are, but it's always a ton of fun to see who doesn't have to go through the pain of regionals. And let's be honest, nobody wants to ride in a bus trip for like 15 hours when they head down there. So let's take a look who doesn't have to travel. Calvin College in Oakland. We have Florida Gulf Coast, Tampa, a team that just kind of snuck in there. Bryn Athyn, Farmingdale State College, Iowa State, and Marquette. Guys, any surprises here when we look at these 8 teams?
Well, Rhett, I mean, you start off in the South. That University of Tampa team, we saw them in Nationals last year, and they didn't exactly have the showing that they wanted to. Kind of went out there and didn't exactly play to the level that they anticipated. They were number 4 in ranking 3 of the regionals. To see them sneak up from 4 to 2, that's a huge jump. And I know a Central Florida team that's awfully ticked off going into regionals.
It could be that Larry Atagoki factor. He used to play for Kennesaw State. In my opinion, this guy could play Division I if he really wanted to. He's got that skill set, but we'll have to see. He's a huge bonus. It's like the trade deadline pickup for this group. They get an absolutely superstar at the Division III level. Any surprises for you?
Other than that, not really. The rest of it really is chalk, if you will. Calvin and Oakland, they've been number 1 and number 2 all year in the North. You've got Bryn Athyn and Farmingdale State, too.
And when I hear you guys talk about Bryn Athyn, we talk about this group, it's like they are the Atlantic in a lot of people's minds. Mm-hmm. Why?
They have a great system, loyal fans. They have probably one of the finest ranks at the D3 level, and they're just a good team, good, solid team, well coached and efficient. Everything that goes on through the Atlantic, it goes through Bryn Athyn. It goes through that part of the East Coast. And if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. And so far, nobody in the Atlantic has been able to top that team.
Let's take a look here at now the North region of the ACHA, and this is a group that you guys are all too well familiar with.
Absolutely.
What are we looking at here as we reveal the regional rankings? Last year, it was the region that had all 4 teams go to the Final Four. Are we going to see a repeat here as Grand Valley State's taking on Michigan State?
Well, that Grand Valley State team and this Michigan State team, that's a fun matchup because this is a team that's going against each other in the conference tournament the week before. Grand Valley's gritty, they're hard, and they're big, and they're going to hit you against the boards and leave you black and blue like their colors of their school. Michigan State's crafty, and they're always kind of a wild card team, it seems, going into the tournament.
I tend to agree with that Grand Valley State is playing really well. Michigan State in their last 4 games has outscored their opponents 52-3, I believe. That's going to be a dandy game right there Friday night.
Got some other ones. Hope College taking on Lawrence Tech. Adrian is taking on Michigan as well. You can see there. Hope College, a team that always just seems to be on the brink of greatness.
Oh, they are indeed, and they've got some great goaltending. Chris Van Timmeren, it's a very well-coached team.
Oh, for sure.
And I think the one thing with the North being in the Michigan Collegiate Hockey Conference, they've beaten each other up. They're very good teams from top to bottom, and from Aquinas on down that are not the automatic qualifiers. So I really think it's going to be a dandy region.
You personally, I know you have a little attachment to Aquinas, and that's okay. Should they have been in the top 2? You always wonder when they're at 3, right? Like you always have that gut feeling.
Well, here's the thing. They split with Oakland early in the year. They played really well at their own barn. They split with Calvin, and they won at each other's place just last weekend. So I'm not really surprised that they're number 3. Again, we talked about it as the top 4 teams of the country last year in Division III making it to the Nationals. I'm not surprised that Aquinas is at number 3, really.
Everybody likes the Cinderella story when it comes to, playoff time, and in regionals, a team that's kind of down in that 9-10 range that goes all the way and makes it. As we look at this group, who's that team out of the North that's going to kind of just surprise people and head to nationals?
Well, to me, it's going to be the University of Michigan as the surprise team. They won 5 out of their last 6, 5 in a row, actually 9 out of their last 10.
Wow.
And they've beaten Oakland. And they've played well against all the other opponents. They Coach Jason Baratek's got themselves really ready for the national tournament if they make it that far. But they also beat Adrian College Gold, who they play in the first round of the regional tournament.
What are some key matchups here in this North region that we're going to be looking at?
Well, one of the key matchups, I think, is going to be Grand Valley against Michigan State.
Okay.
We talked about it at the top. They're fairly even. They played very even when they played each other earlier in the year, and they play each other in the first round of the conference tournament this coming Friday. The other one I have, again, is Adrian College Gold against Michigan.
Okay.
Michigan's playing really hot. Adrian College Gold up and down a little bit. So to me, those are the two main matchups in the North to look for.
I kind of mentioned this earlier. I want to throw it out there again. Is it going to be a case this year where last year we talked about it, we had 4 teams coming out of the North region that went on to the Final Four, and honestly, it should have been that way. All 4 teams were absolutely fantastic. Can you see that happening again this year?
Well, you look around, and we were looking at these rankings right before the show started off. The top teams, Calvin, Aquinas, you're seeing these top teams play teams like Hope,
right.
or excuse me, like Colorado State. You're seeing them play teams all along the South, top teams, and teams that are sneaking in too, like USF, and they're having no problem with them. I mean, we saw even Michigan take down Colorado State. They split the weekend series, but a lot of these teams, Colorado State went on a Michigan road trip, and they had no success in 4 days against any of the Grand Rapids teams, any of that MCHC West teams. The ACHA Nationals go through the North. No matter how you look at it, no matter what region you're looking at, the North just knows how to play some good quality hockey, and they're just able to outlast these teams. I think we're definitely looking at a situation, but don't be surprised if there's any party crashers, either in that Bryn Athyn team from the Atlantic, or the West has got some surprises we should be looking at.
I know the sleeper, you're talking about Michigan, but you really like their goaltender.
I really like their goaltender. Alex Chen he's played well. And I don't know if he's carried the team, but he's really given them the momentum to get where they are now, up to the number 9 spot in the region. They started out outside the top 10, but again, they've really played some good against some really quality opponents, like I mentioned, Oakland and Adrian College Gold. They're a sleeper. And, one team also that kind of crashed the party, if you will, is Indiana. They made their first appearance in this regional this year, the only team out of Michigan in the top 10. They're playing Aquinas, but I really think that my sleeper is going to be Michigan.
All right, from the North we head due south here and take a look at the regional reveal. And obviously the South has kind of changed over the last couple of years. You have Alabama that's moved up to D1, some other teams that have moved around, some Division III teams that have gone up to D2. So it's a bit of a different look this year. I have it changing at the Garden. The first matchup we see here is Liberty University taking on UNC Wilmington.
Yeah, this UNC Wilmington team, they've come on some tough times against some of the teams in their regions, notably a South Carolina team that we're going to take a deeper look at. Liberty played in the national tournament last year. They got there by reasons that some would say a little bit different than anticipated with Vanderbilt.
I called it personally an at-large bid.
Okay.
That's how I explained it to people. Yeah.
And Liberty, I think they got a lot of good experience from playing in the national tournament last year. They didn't have the best showing, and when you take on the Iron Machine that was Oakland University last year, you're only going to get so much experience out of that. But they played deep into March. They were able to get that experience. They're going to be a team to watch, definitely, even if they are standing at that number 7 seed in the South.
Yeah, one thing about Liberty, and I'll be honest, I'm their head coach, right? So I know a fair bit about it. We do have 17 underclassmen. So it's a very young team, a skilled team, young team that's learning how to win. UNC Wilmington, I remember playing them a couple years ago, a team that's just great in the transition game from defense to offense. They will make you pay. Our next matchup is we've got South Florida, a couple of stud goalies on that team. I'm really impressed with them, and they shouldn't have been down in the teens for as long as they were. And then they're playing against the Gamecocks, who have come on strong here lately.
This is an incredibly interesting matchup. The University of South Florida, the Ice Bulls as they like to call themselves, they start off at number 14, then they were number 13, then they were number 13 again, and now they find themselves crashing the party, if you will, making it to number 8. They upset number 1 Florida Gulf Coast in the SCHC tournament to make it to the finals. They've played well against the top 4 teams. They lost 6-3 to Tampa. They're 0-3 against Tampa in the season. And against Georgia, they went 7-1 loss. Against Central Florida, they had a tie and a few losses, but they've been able to compete. And I don't think they're as underrated as the record would show them,
Right.
standing in at 10-18. I think they've come upon some hard times playing against some of the tough teams, and some have said that Florida themselves could be its own region in hockey in the D3 level. But I think this is a team that can definitely compete. And South Carolina, 8 of their last 10 games have been wins. Hot streak. They've moved from 16 to number 5. Watch out for this Gamecocks team because they're looking to get themselves punching their ticket to nationals.
Yeah, they've been absolutely rolling as of late. As we continue down here, Kennesaw State, not the strongest second half of the season, and they go up against Central Florida, who dropped down out of the auto bids.
Central Florida, actually a team that nationally ranked, if you're looking at the My Hockey rankings, they're very highly perceived, and a lot of people looking at them interestingly. You said it, they were a number 2 team, but they couldn't get the job done to close out the season. That's a harsh mark to have to go into the regional tournament knowing that, hey, we went from being in Columbus to having to claw our way into Columbus.
Yeah.
Usually see that as a negative, but I think for a Central Florida Golden Knights team like they are, I think they're going to turn this into a positive. And Kennesaw State, a team that made it to nationals last year, definitely on the outside looking in right now as far as the road that they have to take to get to nationals, I think they have to prepare for a Central Florida storm.
Yeah, Central Florida obviously going to be very, very motivated. The last matchup here, Georgia taking on Mississippi. Can I break this one down a bit?
Absolutely.
Georgia's doggone good people. Let me tell you, they smoked us. They cleaned our clocks. This team can play. They run a system great. But Mississippi, if they play their goaltender, I can't remember his last name. It ends in Hart. This kid's a stud. I don't know why they don't play him every single game. I don't know what's going on there. But this kid, you should just run this stallion into the ground every single night because he shut us out 2-0. I think we peppered him with like 60 shots down there in Ole Miss. And this kid was just, I don't know, it's like seeing a beach ball through a storm. I can't believe this kid was so good. So this is a fun matchup in my opinion. I think those two teams, if Urquhart, I think is his last name, can play in goal against Georgia, who's just so offensively dynamic, they just roll. They got the Bray brothers. They're just firing in there. That's going to be quite the hockey game, even though it's 3 versus 10.
Well, if I could real quick, it just tells you how powerful the South region really is. You've got a Georgia team that can't crack the top 2. I don't know what else they can do.
In my opinion, they were number 1.
You know,
they only lost 1 game in regular season, in regulation, and then 1 in overtime.
With Florida, Gulf Coast, and Tampa 1 and 2, I mean, it just shows you again how strong it is. And I'm with you. I followed this Georgia team talking with their coach on the podcast, and I thought there's got to be a way that they can get up into the top 2. But unfortunately for them, they couldn't. But they're going to be a tough out.
Take a look here at some key matchups in the South region of the ACHA. What do you guys have?
South region, I'm definitely putting it out there. I think the series between South Carolina and South Florida, it's going to be something we definitely have to watch. It's going to be a very good battle. And this is a team that's angry. This is a team that wants to get themselves in. And they're a team that's coming in on a hot streak. In South Florida, they're that kind of darling child, the Cinderella story, if you call it, coming out of nowhere, riding in the teens the entire way, but they're in the driver's seat now. If they want to do something, they got to do it now. And they were able to take care of it mostly in the conference tournament. Now's the big time.
That's true.
No one's holding your hand right now. You got to take it the rest of the way.
Absolutely fantastic. Who's the sleeper here in the South?
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. South Carolina, the Gamecocks. When a team's coming in hot, it's hard to stop a hot team. And the team right below them in UNC Wilmington, they outscored them 16-5 in 3 meetings against them. This is a team that it's kind of hard to really get a grasp of them because when the entire South is divided into Florida and the other guys,
that's right.
You can't really get a full grip. But the South Carolina team, I think they're the team that's finally going to say, hey, you know what? We can let the Floridans, we can let the Panhandles have their fun. But I think it's time for the Upper Peach State to have its fun too.
Can you really call them a sleeper though at number 5, Lou? Is that too high of a ranking to be a sleeper?
I really don't think they're a sleeper. Personally, I think they've really played well the second half of the year. And if I was going with a sleeper, I'd go with South Florida.
I agree. Couple of stud goaltenders on that team. They play extremely well. They're a lot better than people think. Well, hey, make sure you stay with us. When we come back, we're going to check out the Atlantic and the West. It's always a lot of fun.
Hi, I'm Anita, and I'm graduating with a degree in business administration and a minor in psychology. I love Liberty Online because of its flexibility. I can spend time with my family and, go back to the schoolwork later, even if it's at midnight. I can be at home, do my schoolwork in my pajamas, and it's worked out perfect, absolutely perfect. I've been able to help take care of my 3-year-old grandson while his parents work, so that's just been awesome. I didn't take classes for 20 years. I was on unemployment and applying for jobs. I had the experience, but I didn't have the degree that was usually required. Coming back as an older, more mature, wiser person, I did much better. You can do it. Don't underestimate yourself. I totally was underestimating myself, but I am smarter than I thought. I am especially excited to graduate because I will be graduating with my daughter. I can't wait to see what God has in store for my life.
Hey, welcome back to Lynchburg, Virginia. Time to dip our big toe in the Atlantic and take a look here at some of the reveal conferences that we have here. We're going to take a look at the reveal, obviously, and see what teams have made it in the Atlantic region. And let's jump right to it here. We've got Fairfield taking on George Mason. George Mason at number 7.
This is going to be a very interesting contest. Fairfield, they've been to the Nationals before the last 2 years. They're coming in strong. I believe they were in third place in their conference. George Mason was their third place in the Eastern Division, I believe it is, in the Delaware Valley. I like Fairfield in this one. I just think that their experience is going to play a factor coming into this contest on Friday.
And we got Rowan playing Fredonia State.
Rowan, Bruce Kaczynski, the head coach there. What I like about this team, they are focused about the Nationals. They pointed to this since I talked to them in, I believe it was October on my podcast. The road to Columbus. That's where I stole the signature line for in my podcast. I think they're very loaded. They're strong. They've got 3 deep on their lines. They can score. I really like them in this.
Take a look at the next one here. Southern Connecticut State taking on PSU. And what do you think about this one?
Well, PSU Barron, this is their first opportunity in the regional tournament. Coach Ed Maris was very happy with their club, the way they've progressed over the last couple of years. But Southern Connecticut State, Bill Walsh, they're 19-6. They come in very solid. I think it's going to be very tough for Barron to compete with Southern Connecticut State. I can see them advancing.
Yeah, Southern Connecticut State, we faced them a couple years back, and they played just a quality cycle game, really tough to beat down low. And last off, we have California University of Pennsylvania taking on West Virginia. The Mountaineers coming in.
Well, kind of a surprise West Virginia got in. No slight against them, but they're going up against a very, very strong California University team. 13-3-1 on the regular season. They were the champs of the College Hockey East, and they, again, you talk about firepower. They've got it. They've been there before. I think they're going to ride that wave. I think they may think that they have something to prove as well.
You do. They were there last year. We faced them as well. Quality hockey team that can do a lot of good stuff offensively. Let's take a look here. Some key matchups within this region. What do you have for us?
Well, the first key matchup I have is going to be Rowan against the Rowan matchup
Fredonia State.
Against Fredonia State. Fredonia State, I know they, obviously they can hang with just about anybody in this Atlantic region. Mm-hmm. It's going to be I think a high-scoring game against Rowan, but I do believe, as I said earlier, Rowan's going to come out on top against them.
And you're a big fan of Bell that plays for Rowan.
Yeah, 6 power play goals, 6 game-winning goals on the year. He's their go-to guy, and I think he's got 53 points, 25 goals on the season. He's their stud, and I think he can carry them. If
you only could watch one other game in that region, what would that other game be?
Well, I would have to say the other one in that region would have to be Fairfield against George Mason.
Yeah.
6 and 7. I know it's right in the middle, but Fairfield, as I mentioned, I'm interested to see how well they play against, or actually George Mason, how well they play away from their home barn.
Really tough team at home.
Yeah, and so I think that's going to be a dandy.
Let's take a look here. Who is your sleeper in the Atlantic?
Well, it's tough to call them a sleeper because they've been there before, but my sleeper is going to be Fairfield. They play a tough schedule throughout the year. They've beaten some of the good teams. They've beaten Cal University. They've beaten Rowan. So a 6th ranking, I still think that's going to be the sleeper in the Atlantic Division.
All right, let's move on here to the West. Take a look at who's going to make regionals in this region of the United States. And The West always tough. You never know really what's going on out there. It's a team. It's kind of it is the wild West.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going on out there. They could be partying. Who knows if they even play? No, I'm just kidding. But no, this is a group that they kind of always come in with a question mark because nobody really gets to watch their games.
Well, it's funny about the West. There's only one team in the top 5 that was in the national tournament from the West last year, that being Colorado State, and they were an auto bid last year. This Iowa State team that we're going to see later on in the matchups and later on in the national tournament, I mean, they're a team that for years have been looking to get into the national tournament. Last year, kind of just not able to finish down the line. And Iowa State's going to be a great team going forward. But we start with this first matchup against an Air Force team that's been stuck at number 6 and 7 all season long against a Nebraska team that I know Lou really is high on. I think that's going to be one of the easy matchups to start off with to want to watch all night long.
You like those Cornhuskers, eh, Lou?
Well, I just like how they've progressed all the way up. They started out, 13th, I believe, in the first ranking, and they're on a roll. I mean, they are playing with a purpose. I really like Nebraska.
Aurora Bradley?
Oh, man. Aurora. This is a team that I'm all too familiar with. Got to see them in the national tournament last year against my Chippewas back up at Central Michigan. One of the craziest offensive games, one of the craziest physical games. They're at a number 8 seed right now, and they moved up after getting swept by the Chippewas down at Aurora, losing 6-5 and 10-0. That speaks highly to what the Pacific region thinks of the MCHC in the North. This Aurora team, you can count them out at a number 8, but I've seen this team play plenty of times. I know about their goal scorers. This team's going to be tough no matter if they're at a 1 seed or a 10 seed.
Right.
Bradley's a good team. No disrespect to them whatsoever, but don't be surprised if there's an upset right there.
Then we have Missouri State taking on Wisconsin-Platteville.
Missouri State very highly ranked, and this Wisconsin-Platteville team, they've kind of been moving up and down the rankings all through the course of the season, but I think that Missouri State's going to be able to take care of business in this one. This is a fun team to watch, and there's no reason that the Force shouldn't be able to come up with the win here.
And then our final matchup is Colorado Mesa versus Colorado State. Is that right, Mesa? Did I say that right?
Yes.
I kill it sometimes.
Colorado State, they're a team that is fast, and they're a team that kind of mimics more of a Southern-style team that you'd be used to than more of the Western kind of gritty style of play. Colorado State was almost one of those upset darlings in that Oakland pool of nationals last year. They gave the Grizzlies a tough time last year, and being at number 3 right now, not getting that auto bid this time, they've definitely got the Nationals experience. That's going to be huge for them. But I think the most important thing that they come in with is the ability to just put the puck in the back of the net. They have played the toughest teams. They played a 4-game road trip in Michigan. Right. You're not going to win in Michigan if you're a team from the West. They played hard. They came away with a 4-1 loss to Aquinas in the middle tilt of that, a team that I know Lou is all too familiar with. But I know that this Colorado State team is going to be able to take care of business. As a number 3 seed, I predicted they're going to make their way to nationals, and they're going to definitely compete again this year.
Is that one of your key matchups, or you have some different games?
Absolutely. Okay. Colorado State leads the way for the key matchups. And right after that, after the 3-10 matchup, we're looking at Nebraska Air Force, the middle matchup, a one that's so interesting to look at because this Air Force team, they're my sleeper team. I know a number 7 seed's not all too sleeper-esque, but I have a thing as a Chippewa fan that hot teams with great goalies are going to go very far. We saw it with Central Michigan as a sleeper pick in the national tournament last year. John Nan is a player, is a name that you're going to want to get to know. He's number 7 in the ACHA D3 for goaltenders. 19 games played, 11-2 record, 2 shutouts, 34 goals against, a 1.9 goals against average, a .940 save percentage.
Yeah, those are crazy numbers in the ACHA. Like at Division I level through D3. D3, in some ways, I say if you've got a GAA a little over 3,
you're doing
pretty
well.
good.
Right.
Below 2 is unheard of. What's our next key matchup here?
Colorado State, Colorado Mesa. I mean, Colorado Mesa, you come in at a 10 seed.
Okay.
But this is going to be a really tough task for Colorado State. I think this Colorado Mesa team is better than the 10 ranking, and they kind of did sneak in there, kind of being just on the outside looking in before they came in. It's going to be a task for Colorado State just to take care of business. I mean, this is a team that we know has all the potential to get their way to nationals, has the potential to win at nationals, and has the potential to move on at nationals. You got to start at the very beginning. And a Mesa team gives them a very good shot at a very good game to start off this national or this regional tournament.
All right, so is your sleeper Air Force? Is that what you were saying? You like, obviously, John, but what else about this group what do you like about them?
You know, they have a great goaltender, and that's a great start, but they're outscoring their opponents. They're nearly doubling them up.
Wow.
104 goals for, 58 goals against. Number 32 team in the country. They've played the Colorado State team. They tied them 2-2, and that's their only matchup that they had against that team. They're a team that hasn't really played a lot of the top 10 talent per se, but they're on a 3-game winning streak. They're coming in, winning 5 of their last 7. And again, I can't say it enough. A hot team that comes up with wins and is able to come through with a hot goaltender, this is a scoring league. The ACHA D3, No matter how you look at it,
have to bury.
There's going to be
true.
goals in the back of the net. And they always say chicks dig the back of the net. Well, this Air Force team, you know what? They can do just that, but they have no problem putting the rubber back on the ice before it gets to the back of the twine.
So all the girls like to go out to the Air Force games, is that what you're saying?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm a Jets fan myself, more on the Canadian side, but you know what? If they're going to fly, let them fly.
Hey, make sure you stay with us when we come back. We're going to take a punch at who's going to nationals. Stay with us.
Listen, we're all tired of forced authenticity, contrived quotes, and stock footage. Let's try something different. You see, we believe in the challenge of a valuable education, an education that will stand the test of time as you stand up for truth. Liberty University, that's why we educate.
Where are we going? What are we pursuing? Success? Greatness? Or something bigger? We believe in a calling that reaches beyond ourselves, where leadership is shaped by service, and knowledge isn't just an individual pursuit, it's something we're meant to share, where strength isn't demonstrated in power, but through humility. Answer the call at Liberty University.
Welcome back to Lynchburg. It's the fun time now. These guys put their reputation on the line and tell us who's going to nationals. We'll start with the North. Who's going to be the other two teams?
Well, I'm going to have to go. One of them is going to be Aquinas. They've been there before. I think
You would. You would, Lou.
they're
Call
going.
them out.
Hey, they made it to the championship game last year. They've got almost everybody back, and they played in what I think is probably the best conference in America. The proof is in the pudding. So I'm going to go with Aquinas. And, boy, I flipped a coin right before we came on.
Okay.
The rest of the region.
Not kidding.
But I'm going to have to go with my sleeper, and that's Michigan.
All right. Can I ask you just a random question really quick?
Absolutely.
You ever get confused with Lou Lamoriello? Wow. Like you could kind of go that way. If you got the accent going on a little bit, you could be confused with the GM of the Leafs.
I haven't been, but I could work on it.
Let's make that happen.
I see the
The
relation.
power play would go through the roof.
All right.
All right, Atlantic region.
Oh, for the Atlantic
Oh,
region?
sorry, I double
that-
backed. You know, that's okay. We'll go the South. I got my
Okay.
papers mixed up here.
You know what? You want to go to the South?
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to go top heavy right here. I called out Georgia. I said, you said it yourself.
Yeah.
This is a team that should be top 2 team. And
Oh,
we've all seen Georgia
totally.
the last 2 years, the last 3 years.
Yeah.
This Bulldog team is hungry to play in the national team.
They are hungry.
Columbus is calling their name. I mean, Georgia may be on Ray Charles' mind, but Columbus is on the Bulldogs' mind, and they're ready to go this year. I'm ready to see them up there. And they're going to be joined by the South Carolina Gamecocks, nationally ranked, maybe a little low, but in the South, they're ready to go. I can see them.
You know what? Nothing against South Carolina. I have a lot of trust in those South Florida goaltenders. I think they're going to upset that game.
It's going to be a fun
I
one
could
to
be
watch.
wrong. I could be wrong, and people are probably going to yell at me next in Florida in a couple weeks.
I'm going to hold you to that.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Atlantic.
Well, I'm going to stick with Cal U of Pennsylvania.
Okay.
I think they're going to make a return trip to the Nationals. And again, the team that coined the phrase on my Power Play podcast, The Road to Columbus, I'm going with Rowan. I think they've got the firepower. I think they're going to be there come March in Columbus.
All right, and the West.
The West, I'm going to go with my sleeper team, Air Force Academy. They're coming in at number 7, but I really like what I see from them. And I'm going to say it again. If you have a hot goaltender, you're going
That's
to go
true,
far.
yeah.
And for the other one, it's going to be the number 3. I like the 3s in both the West and in the Pacific and the South.
Mm-hmm.
Colorado State, they were number 1 team in the Pacific region last year. Played a very good national tournament. They're heading right back there, and expect the Rams to have a chance to move on.
All right, national champion winners.
Ooh, man.
I know. I'm just.
You know what? Calvin played a really good national tournament last year. They were not able to get up the win against Lou's Aquinas team, but I think it's really, this is the
He's just labeling me.
Wow.
You're the GM of Aquinas. That's what we've
Yeah,
established
that's
here right
essentially
now. You're the GM of Aquinas.
This Calvin team, led by the Petruzma family, they're a great team. They have phenomenal scorers like Cam Bell. They're just an all-around great team. They get it done defensively. Almost no one has been able to touch Calvin all year long. Nothing's going to change going into the national tournament.
Lou.
Well, you know what? I'm going to go off the grid. I'm a Michigan
I like
native,
it. Yeah.
but I am going to go with Iowa State.
Really? Out of the West, eh?
That's my sleeper national champion. I think they're loaded. They got the chip on their shoulder. I think they're going to do it. Iowa State.
Is it one of those situations that nobody really knows much about them, so they come in with a little extra hidden talent because nobody's been able to scout them that well?
That, and I think they've played a great schedule,
Yeah.
and they've got a great record. And again, that chip on their shoulder for getting knocked out last year in the regionals. They know the disappointment, and I think they're going to go all the way.
Absolutely fantastic. Always going to be a lot of fun. Once again, make sure you come to Columbus. It's going to be an absolute blast. Thank you for watching us here tonight. Have a good night, and God bless everyone.